Good morning. So, I wanted to talk about reconfiguring herds and turnout spaces and things like that. So, last night I needed to start my process of getting ready for another foal coming in, and I needed to create its future group where when it arrives, that whole group isn't just getting to know each other and now a new horse gets thrown into it. I wanted that group to already be kind of settled. I've been thinking about it. It's something I stress out about, and I'm going to say, in my defense, I had a horse when I was 12 years old at a boarding facility, and he got kicked in the field by a Appaloosa named Poncho, and it shattered his knee, and we had to put him down. I was devastated, and I've never forgotten the dangers of horses in turnout, horses in group turnout. And for a long time, I was adamant about any other boarding facility that I went to that my horse was turned out alone. It was just that I was that afraid that I was going to have that situation again. Now, I have since, accepted that I don't need to do that. I want you to see my logo. I'm depriving my horses of being horses, of doing the things that are natural to them by herd experiences, dynamics, and ways of life. So I have since changed that, but now I do struggle when introducing a new horse. I do struggle when changing existing herds, combining existing herds. I don't really stress out about saying take this group of horses that have been together forever and putting them in a new paddock, because I know that's just going to be the running around of exploration, but they'll settle down as a group. I stress out more about throwing two groups together that haven't been together. I'm not even as bad with that, even because the two horses that got put in with the other two horses could eventually just go their separate ways. For a long time, I had two herds of three in the same field. And that was fine. They all got along well enough, but for the most part, you could see defined separate entities. So last night, long story short, I suppose, last night I decided I have to get ready for this new foal. And what I want for that new foal is I either want a full herd or I want a babysitter and a full situation. So I think for me, the best is to keep Daisy with Tucker and do what I did with Dewey, is just let her say, kitchen's closed. And Dewey, I think, was very adjusted to every change in the weaning process. It never happened. There was never a stressful moment. So I don't want to deprive Tucker of that same passive weaning process. So what I decided to do last night was, it was going to be a step more than I needed to do, was I was going to put Bentley and Dewey with Teddy and Logan, because Dewey's gotten along with them over the fence nonstop. They're buddies, Dewey can't take his attention away from those big guys on the other side of the fence. So I knew he was probably going to settle in pretty quickly with them, but Bentley never seemed interested or disinterested, right? He was just kind of neutral. So yesterday I'm like, all right, I'll put them all together. My goal was actually to eventually pull Bentley back out and put him with Daisy and Tucker, so that Tucker can now have another horse to learn from, because he's a little bit of a brute to his mom, and he's almost as big as her now at 4.5 months old. So he's already hey. So it's important to me to get another horse with Tucker, but I thought for the transition of Dewey, it was going to be better to put Bentley and Dewey, so Dewey had an ally. And at first, Bentley did take on that job of, I'm going to, be your protector. And it was kind of nice because Bentley's a little socially underdeveloped. He doesn't really understand the mannerisms. He doesn't really understand the body language. He doesn't really understand when a horse pins his ears or turns his back to you that you might want to run. He doesn't understand any of that. Like he's, and not only does he not understand it to where he like stands there like a dope, but then he seems hurt when when the horse takes up the next step. So I really was always careful with him emotionally. But he's great, gentle babysitter horse, perfect babysitter horse. And I was impressed. I actually have him on video, like threatening to kick Logan. And I was like, oh boy, I hope that doesn't, because Logan is a dominant horse. He was a stallion until he was 5.5. He would say, oh yeah? And then Bentley would be majorly screwed. Because Bentley doesn't know how to do it. You know what I mean? In fact, I even narrated the video where he turned and showed him his tail, and then he walked away going, that should have done something. Like, that should have worked. Like, why didn't you run away? You should have been afraid of me. So he tried it again, but still didn't know to do anything else. And then he was kind of like, all right, well, I guess that doesn't work on you. And he gave up. I remember the very first time he pinned his ears, and it was effective. This was many, many years ago, and this was the first horse that actually tormented him. He pinned his ears, and the horse like jumped away in respect of that, not knowing him. They had just met. But Bentley threw himself under the bus, because right after he pinned his ears and made the other horse move, he goes, that worked? And as soon as he put his ears up and asked that question, the other horse goes, all right. And ever since then, it was Major's mission to torment Bentley, to the point where I would take Bentley out of a doorway that opened up into, the field, right? So like we would just go out the door, and then that would be the paddock. And he would put his head out the door, look left, look right, and decide if he was safe to come out or if Major was going to be nearby, right? So I feel bad for Bentley, let's just put it that way. So anyway, I know I'm like jumping off in all kinds of different directions, but this is kind of like why I'm doing what I'm doing kind of thing. Last night, very quickly, so they did kind of run as two different, and then they kind of ran as four, and I have some really great footage of that I'm going to probably take my audio or even the sound of them. I love the sound of their thunder, but it was a lot of like kind of background noise and me talking, like who wants to hear that? So I might just show them galloping towards me. It was really kind of a cool little image. And so Bentley and Dewey kind of stayed in the main paddock. Teddy and Logan share 3 paddocks. So there's 3 paddocks they have access to that have like an entrance, and then you go in, and then there's another entrance, and actually there's 2 entrances. So it was very intricate, which was a concern for me, where I was already debating, okay, I'll let them have the daylight hours, but they're on night turnout. So I was going to collect them back, Dewey and Bentley, and put them in their normal paddock for the night, because Bentley's been diagnosed with cataracts. And my concern was Bentley getting himself pinned in a corner and not knowing where to go, right? So that was like my game plan. And after a little while, I looked out and I saw Dewey and Bentley, and I have this on video, venturing into the paddock where Teddy and Logan were like, okay, we're over the whole new guy thing, we're going to graze now. And they were in one of the 3 paddocks, and Teddy and Bentley and Dewey went over. The next thing I know, Dewey is all like on Teddy's butt, he's just like, he's cute. He's kind of like seeing if he could push that big guy around. And then I saw and then he was collected in the corner with Logan, and Logan's been so good with him. My only concern is, when it's time to come in and Logan owns the gate. Logan's pretty aggressive owning his gate. So I was only worried about like Dewey not understanding the body language of that. Was Dewey going to accidentally get kicked because he just wasn't smart enough to understand when a horse acts like this, you step back. I know you got along all night, but now this is a different situation. I was worried about that. So anyway, after a little while, I noticed that Dewey was totally like, peace out, I'm hanging out with these guys. And Bentley ventured back to the main paddock, which was the paddock that had the fence line that joined them, from their old paddock. And Bentley never grew into a big voice, so he's always had a full sounding voice, very high pitched, very whinny sounding. So all of a sudden I started hearing him whinnying, and he was running, just trotting, up and down that fence. And Bentley has like severe arthritis in one of his back legs, and this is the most sound he's ever been in the last 3 years. So I'm like, I don't want him running anymore, like let's keep whatever healing process or whatever's happening here that's helping him not be as lame as he's been. Let's stop the running, right? So I went and I collected him. I'm like, well, Dewey's fine. He totally pieced out. He's just like, I left you for the upperclassmen. It's like when you go from, your primary school to your high school, right? And then you meet a new group of friends, and the kid that you've been friends with since you were, old enough to walk because they live 2 doors down, now is like, you're nobody to me. Like, these kids are cool, right? So that's kind of what happened, right? Now Bentley's by himself, and Bentley's like, I need to go back where I belong. I don't belong in here. And I don't think even he was understanding that Dewey was in there, just not where he was at this point. And I didn't see a future of him venturing back over there. So I went and I got him, and I said, well, let's see, maybe I'll put him in the paddock he knows, and then I'll go get Daisy and Tucker. And I'm like, my concern with that is the shed in that paddock has it has a divider, and it's not, there's like a board it creates enough of a gap that if Tucker got stuck on one side and Daisy was on the other side and Tucker panicked, I could see Tucker attempting to try to crawl through that hole. And because of that, I've been afraid. So what I wanted to do was take down that wall and put a gate. A gate that I can put flush against the inside of the shed when I don't care if they use both, or close it so I can use 2 paddocks, because they also have a 2 paddock space. So that's why I hadn't put them in there yet, because I hadn't done that yet. And I was like, is tonight the night to do that? I don't know. Maybe it would be better for them to get to know each other. And then I realized, well, this is the paddock that Daisy and Tucker are in is the best new baby paddock. It's the best new horse paddock, like new horse to other horses paddock, because there are no corners. It's a oval, giant oval, and everything's rounded, right?